We are not new to surveys. Blizzard likes sending surveys out. I don't know how you get on this list to actually receive one because quite honestly, I've never ever received a survey, but maybe they just don't like me, which I completely understand. But there's been one flying around on Wowhead and it's about Cataclysm. And while Cataclysm might not be something you think you want, I'd be a bit open-minded about it. And this survey is quite long. It's about 50 odd questions, I believe, actually. But we're going to fly through it. We're just going to fly through the whole survey so we can gauge how Blizzard are thinking for the future and what they're possibly looking at doing. Because how it looks to me is they want to do Cataclysm Classic. Why wouldn't they? Let's milk this cash cow. But they want changes. And some of those changes could be quite big. Let's fly through the survey and see what they're saying. We won't worry too much about the basics. So what country do you live in? How old are you? What's your gender? That's all boring stuff. No one cares. So this is probably the first interesting one. So which of the following devices, if any, do you currently own and actively use to play video games? So you got PlayStation, PC, smartphone, Microsoft, Xbox Series S, X, One, all of those. Tablets used for playing games, Nintendo Switch, or none of the above. Now, the reason this is quite interesting because they're probably setting up for cross-platform in the future. Let's be fair, why wouldn't they? Now, with the whole Microsoft acquisition, it makes sense that they do go into the console market. And that makes even more sense in a question in just a second, which is how many hours would you estimate you play PC, Xbox, or PlayStation in a typical month? Now, going back to this, these will obviously be tailored. So the future questions will be tailored based on the person who actually received this survey, what they filled out. So this person has probably said PlayStation, PC, and Xbox. So now it's asking how much you play on those in a typical month. So Blizzard will want to sort of capitalize on your playtime on consoles as well, which I really, really do see. If not retail, then maybe classic, or if not classic, then retail being on consoles in the next 2 years, I would say. But moving on, how would you rate your enjoyment of the following video game genres? So you got shooters like COD, sports like FIFA, sandbox like Minecraft, open world action games, role-playing games, all of these. I mean, this is largely irrelevant to, obviously, World of Warcraft for us for the purposes of this video, so we're going to just gloss through all of these ones that have got nothing to do with Cataclysm. I'm very open-minded though, I'd play any of these games. And then from which of the following video game franchises, if any, would you never want to play a game from? Again, I'm very open-minded, I'd play any of them. Which of the following games have you played? So it's mostly Blizzard-related titles, but then with some other big titles like Witcher, Fortnite, Elden Ring, all of those thrown in. I've actually played all of these games except for Elden Ring. Which of the following best describes your experience? So this is just trying to get, what you've been playing recently. So have you been playing retail? Have you been playing classic? StarCraft, Diablo, any of those? Thinking of the past 30 days, what have you played most of? So more time on Modern or more time on Classic? How likely are you to purchase, play or subscribe to each of the following games in the future with a similar list to what we saw before? This is where it gets spicy. So World of Warcraft Classic will be bringing back Wrath of the Lich King in 2022. After World of Warcraft Classic, Wrath of the Lich King comes out, what would you like to see World of Warcraft Classic team do next? Please be as specific as possible. Now, not all of you are going to agree with me, maybe none of you agree with me, but my personal feelings actually, and let's look at it objectively. Let's think, I want to create content. I enjoy creating content, and I like creating sort of future expansion content earlier to get you ready. That's the whole purpose. I was making TBC content well before TBC came out. I've been making Wrath content well before Wrath came out. So at some point in the future, it would be nice to get, on the front foot by making sort of Cata-related content before Cata comes out, so you can be ready. It's the whole point of the channel, really. So for selfish reasons, of course, I want Classic to continue. But at the same time, it would be just as interesting to make content on a more expansive Wrath of the Lich King, if that makes sense. So actually staying at a Wrath of the Lich King state. So you could still raise level caps and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe add stuff from Cata, but just keep building on in Northrend and Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. So we never really leave. It would be Wrath of the Lich King plus. I would be completely open to that. The two directions I'd like to see Classic go in is Cataclysm with changes. 100%. Cataclysm with changes. Cata is actually a very good expansion, and I've played on servers that I shouldn't talk about, and I really do enjoy Cataclysm. I enjoy it not quite as much as MOP, not quite as much as Wrath. I would say it's probably number 3 out of all of the expansions for me. But before you say no, Legion's number 1. I never really played much of Legion at all. So yeah, I'd want to see either Cata Classic with changes or Wrath of the Lich King Plus, where we just keep building on Wrath of the Lich King, which that's a lot of work. That's like creating a new game. Don't see them doing it. Cata is more than likely the way to go unless they just keep recycling TBC, vanilla TBC and Wrath in a Season of Mastery sort of way and making different changes, maybe adding things like Mythic Dungeons, doing that along the way, which again, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I don't want to play vanilla and I don't want to play TBC. So it would have to be Wrath sort of seasonal servers every year. And that would still get boring after a couple of years. I could play through all of Classic Wrath as it is now, and I could probably then do a couple of seasonal servers, but by then I'd be looking for something, at least even if it was just a break for a year, like a private server or seasonal server or whatever, to then go back and do Wrath again. That was a long explanation. Let's carry on with the survey. So the expansion after the original Wrath of the Lich King was Cataclysm. We would like to get your feedback on the features and systems introduced in the Cataclysm expansion. If you're familiar with WoW and Cataclysm, please think about the expansion as it was when originally released and separate it from systems and features that you may be familiar with in modern WoW, so Shadowlands, or the current classic releases. So firstly, how familiar are you with the original release? I'm very familiar with it. I would say due to my drinking habits, I wouldn't say extremely familiar, just purely because it was a long time ago. I forget what I done last week. I would say very familiar. So below are some of the features from Cataclysm. So this should take us back a little bit. So there was 10 new dungeons added, which was Blackrock Caverns, Throne of the Tides, Vortex Pinnacle, Stone Core, Lost City of Tolvir, Halls of Origination, which I thought was Halls of Re-Origination. Or am I thinking of Rune of Re-Origination? Probably. Grim Batol, End Time, Well of Eternity, and Hour of Twilight. They also introduced the 2 new playable races being Goblins and Worgans, 5 new raids being Blackwing Descent, Bastion of Twilight, Throne of the Four Winds, Firelands, and Dragon Soul. That's the only bit of the expansion I wouldn't be looking for is Dragon Soul again, even though I've been shot down in comments for saying I actually thought Dragon Soul was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good raid. It just went on for too long. 7 new zones being Mount Hyjal, Vashir. I hate Vashir. Water zones, nah. Deepholm, Oldham, Twilight Highlands, Tolbarad, and Molten Front. Account-wide mounts and pets, which I'm absolutely on board with. Archaeology secondary profession, which actually was a pretty good profession, something to do, more achievements, more mounts, pets, all that sort of thing, and it added some nice bind on account gear as well. Changes to PvP arenas, so for example the removal of 5v5, changes to professions, for example removing specializations in leatherworking, blacksmithing and tailoring, which to be fair, even though it's not removed in Wrath, it makes practically no difference in Wrath, so that doesn't matter. Class design changes, so modifications to class abilities, mechanics, etc., which some classes I absolutely love how they play in Cata actually, but yeah, I still think I prefer the Wrath playstyle of most classes, I would say. Collections user interface, so it was an interface used to track cosmetic items, mounts, pets, etc. Yeah, no problem with that. Dungeon Journal, I really like the Dungeon Journal. In fact, I'd love it if it was in Wrath of the Lich King. Guild advancement systems, which again, guild leveling, achievements and rewards. So this is where you would level your guild up and you could get mass res for everyone. So yeah, you could like mass res a raid to save everybody running back or individually resin. You got extra heirlooms as well from depending on your gear level, and then you had to buy them and get rep and all this fun stuff. Yeah, I like the guild advancement system actually, and the UI that goes along with it. Level cap increase, well, we do just expect a level increase, don't we, on whatever they do. Minor quality of life changes, for example, AoE looting, yes please. Improve flight paths, who would say no to that? Spell alerts from procs, yeah, why not? Ammunition no longer taking bag space, and more. Not one of those changes did I think, please, no, don't do it. All good, all good. Raid Finder, no. All right, that's where I draw the line. No Raid Finder. It's completely different to Random Dungeon Finder. Random Dungeon Finder, I'm all for. That should be in the game. Raid Finder, no. Just absolute abysmal, pointless addition to World of Warcraft, in my opinion, but just my opinion. Rated Battleground system, yeah, which is very, very good. I used to enjoy Rated Battlegrounds. Reforging, so what Reforging does is allows conversion of an item's secondary stat into another secondary stat. That's really good for character customization, actually. So like if you're trying to get a hit cap, for example, and you've got loads of crit, you can drop some crit off of your neck to get some hit. Yeah, I quite like Reforging, actually. Talent system changes, so streamline 31-point talent trees. Yep, I like this as well because it is a little bit in the middle from sort of getting the big talent trees in Wrath of the Lich King to then only having no talent trees in MOP. So the middle ground. Tolbarad, which is a lot of fun, a lot of achievements, nice PvP there, good zone. Transmog, I don't really care about Transmog if I'm honest, but if you like it, you like it. It's not something that I would really be bothered with. Not until Gold Challenge mode's in MOP when I can get the Challenge mode gear and, transmog that, because most of those sets look really cool. And then unified raid loot and lockout, so 10 and 25 player raids share the same lockout timer and distribute the same items. Yeah, I don't know. I really would need to sit and think about that one, because I do see the benefits, being able to have strict 10-man guilds. So if you remember, that's what we used to refer to them as, was 10-man strict. Now, if you just got strict 10-man guilds, that's great. As I say, I would really need to sit and think about that, because if we could incorporate the Wrath of the Lich King way of raiding into Cata, that might be something I would prefer. So 10-man does drop a little bit lower item level. It's a lot of work, because all the items would need to either be renamed or whatever, or they just literally have 10-man as exactly the same items but slightly lower item level, but you can do 10 and 25 in the same week. I think I would prefer the Wrath of the Lich King style raiding in the new Cata raids. Now, the next bit is just how interested would you be in the following features. Now, this is completely personal. This is down individual preference, so I'm not going to sit here and go through what my options would be. The only one that I would say is Raid Finder. I would be very uninterested in. Everything else, I would almost say very interested. And the same applies to this. I mean, there's only so interested you can be in archaeology, but, I would sit that somewhere in the middle, neither interested nor uninterested. Everything else I'm actually pretty okay with. Oh, but obviously unified raids and that, I would put that as very uninterested, and then go with a previous idea of Wrath-style raiding in Cata. Please select a feature you like the most and which you like the least. Now, this is quite interesting, because this might get some of your backs up, and I quite like that. So out of these, I would be most interested in questing and leveling changes, most interested in the minor quality of life changes, and I would be least interested in archaeology and rated battlegrounds. Now, even though I said archaeology is good, it is good, but, I wouldn't say I'm mad. If it wasn't put in the game, I wouldn't be that bothered. Do you know what I mean? It is something nice to do. When I say nice to do, it's quite boring. It's worse than fishing, but it does give some nice rewards. Like I said before, bind on account items or mounts, pets, etc., those sort of things. So it's a nice addition to the game, but it's a bit like pet battles. I like pet battles personally, but if they weren't in the game when MOP came out, I wouldn't really care. So account-wide mounts and pets I would like, so I would put most for that. Most also for guild advancement systems. I would put most for collections user interface as well, because I don't mind that at all. Class design changes would be a difficult one. I would probably have to say most, purely because we're going to have had, a year and a half or whatever, hopefully longer, of Wrath of the Lich King, and everything will start to feel stale. So having all the classes feel like they've been mixed up, spiced up a little bit come Cataclysm, it probably will be a welcome change, but I really do enjoy the way how most of the classes play in Wrath. I would have to play every single class like now in Cata to be able to say, actually, Cata is better. So I would probably put most, just because I do like change. It's nice to keep things fresh. I'll report back in a year or so and let you know how I really feel. Transmog least, definitely. 7 new zones. Yeah, we all like new zones, so no problem with that. Tol Barad, again, I don't really PvP that much, so I'm not overly bothered about that. And changes to PvP arenas, like I said, I don't really PvP, so I'm not a good person to answer for PvP. I'm not that excited about any PvP changes, to be honest with you. Raid Finder, definitely least excited about. Unified raid loot and lockouts, again, least excited about. Reforging, I really like, so that would go into the most column. And talent system changes would also go into the most column, because even though the talent system's smaller, if I show you one of the talent trees, it may only be 31 points, but they're normally meaningful. So all that's been stripped out is like 5 points that give you 5% crit, or, boring stuff like that, basically. And all of the talents just are a bit more beefy now. So I don't actually mind the Cata talent system, to be fair. Dungeon Journal I really like. 2 new playable races, yep, why not? 10 new dungeons, of course I like that. And the fact that the level cap is increased is just a no-brainer. Same with all of these. Changes to professions, collections, minor quality of life changes, and the 5 new raids. Yeah, I'm behind all of those. I'll be honest with you, we'll just skip through these, because the only ones that I'm not going to be bothered about are PvP and Raid Finder. Again, this one would just be very personal. It's basically saying which of the following features would make you most interested to play the next classic expansion. If you need to be reminded of what the feature is, hover over the feature for its definition. So I think out of all of them, it's the new raids for me. I would just say the 5 new raids, because the raids in Cataclysm were actually really good. Dragon Soldiers left a sour taste in everyone's mouths. That is the honest truth. Now, this person in particular selected Transmog, which out of that whole list, bit of a weird one. And then which of these would make you least interested? So for me, this is tough, because actually nothing would stop me playing Classic Cata when it comes out. It would be very easy for me to just say, Raid Finder. But if Raid Finder was in the game, I wouldn't not play it. I just wouldn't go in there. I'm not that against it that I don't need it. I don't want it in the game. It's the same as Random Dungeon Finder. If you don't like Random Dungeon Finder, why shouldn't it be in the game? Just don't use it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm the same with Raid Finder. If Raid Finder's in the game, that's fine, but I won't be queuing. But it would have to be Raid Finder that I select, because actually all of the other things I quite like, maybe Unified Raid Loot and Lockouts, would be just below Raid Finder. Oh, this person selected Raid Finder as well. Thinking about your experience playing World of Warcraft and other MMORPG titles, what quality of life features would you like to have most in the next Classic expansion? Now, for me personally, I think AoE looting is a big one. I like AoE looting, but I do now play a prop Paladin, so, you know, AoE and everything down, and then having to loot individually, quite annoying. And one that you might not agree with, you probably won't agree with, but I do actually really, really hate the corpse run of a raid. I think just spawning you at the start of the raid when you wipe, that's enough for me. You know, cut out that ghost run. For a quality of life change, I personally would like that. You just, when you die, you spawn at the start of the raid. But that does then start to sort of make, you know, the ghost runs and the graveyards and that a little bit more irrelevant, because it's only going to work in the open world. But me personally, I don't like corpse running. Please read the description below carefully, as you'll be asked questions on your interest in and opinion on playing the next WoW Classic expansion based on the concept you're being shown. Following the final patch of Wrath of the Lich King Classic, continuing to Cataclysm, where the Breaker of Worlds, Deathwing, has burst forth from the heart of the Maelstrom, transforming Azeroth. The game will release as it was in 2010, with some changes that may enhance and update the gameplay experience. Key features: retain some pre-Cataclysm features that were streamlined or simplified, exclude the looking for raid feature, increase level cap to 85, and inclusion of 2 new races, Worgens and Goblins. There's one thing they've not mentioned in all of this so far, which is the worst part of Cataclysm. And again, you might hate me in the comments for saying this. Genuinely, the single biggest thing I hate about Cataclysm, and yes, I mean I hate it, is the transformation of Azeroth. You know, the big sort of chasm in the middle of the Barrens, and, you know, Thousand Needles flooding and all of that. You know, I hate how it changed the old zones. I know some of you, again, you might really like that. I absolutely detest it. If we could have Cataclysm but somehow leave the zones as they were, I'd be a lot happier. What one word would you use to describe this concept for WoW Classic? So this is what they've said, you know, with the key features being retaining some of the pre-Cataclysm features, excluding LFR, increasing the cap to 85, and the 2 new races, Worgens and Goblins. If I had to describe that with one word, I would describe it as vague. That would be what I filled that box out with. Because the 2 new races, we know we're going to get them. That's a no-brainer. That's part of Cat. That's coming. The fact that you're going to go to 85, that's a no-brainer. It's a new expansion. Of course you're going to level up. Retaining some of the previous stuff from Wrath of the Lich King. Obviously, you always retain some of the stuff from previous expansions. So really all they're saying is basically Cataclysm Classic with no looking for raid. So that's too vague. There's loads of other things that need to be considered. Loads of other things that could be added or taken away or changed. So for me, that's not enough information. Based on this description, how likely are you to subscribe to play World of Warcraft Cataclysm Classic? I definitely would. Full stop. Absolutely would. And I know a lot of you wouldn't. And I know for a lot of you, the end of the line is Wrath. I'm riding this out. You know, I'd like to go as far as the end of MOP, maybe end of WOD. And then that would probably be me done with Classic, to be fair. Unless I went back to like a Wrath Season of Mastery or a MOP Season of Mastery or something like that. What specifically about this concept for WoW Classic makes you say that you probably would play the game? Honestly, there was nothing in that concept that we was given with those 4 points that make me say that's why I'm playing the game. I'm not playing the game for Worgen and Goblin. I'm not playing the game because I enjoy getting from 80 to 85. I'm not playing the game just because they remove Raid Finder. And I'm not playing the game just because they decided to retain some old systems from previous expansions. I'm playing it because it's new, or it's old but new again. You know what I mean? I'm playing it for all the new content. None of that, of their concept there, actually made me go, that's making me want to play it. How interested are you in the following features? So Cataclysm being re-released as it was in 2010 with changes to enhance and update the gameplay? Yes, absolutely. Retain some pre-Cataclysm features that were streamlined or simplified? Yes, absolutely. Exclusion of looking for raid feature? I'd put neither interested nor uninterested. I don't care if it's in the game, I won't be using it. Increase the level cap to 85? Of course. Inclusion of 2 new races? Of course. Which of the following statements best describe what you like about this concept for World of Warcraft Cataclysm Classic? I want to continue the linear progression of my character. I think this will encourage my friends and other people I play with to continue playing. I played the original Cataclysm and excited about replaying it. I never got to experience the original Cata expansion and want to play through the content as it was originally released, or other. I would say I played the original Cataclysm and I'm excited about replaying it. Which of the following statements, we're nearly there by the way, there's only like 3 more slides, 5 more slides, something like that. What are we on? Oh, we're on 48 of 53, nearly there, 5 more. Which of the following statements best describes what you don't like about World of Warcraft Cataclysm Classic concept and may hold you back from wanting to play? Never played the original Cataclysm, but I have heard negative things about it. I think this will cause my friends and other people I play with to stop playing. I played the original Cataclysm and didn't enjoy it. Other or none of the above? I would say none of the above. Which of the following ways would you describe this concept for Cataclysm Classic? Underwhelming, unique, sounds complicated, all of that. I don't care. None of them. Just none of them. I want to play it. How does this concept compare to your expectations? It exceeds my expectations. It meets my expectations. It falls short on my expectations. It falls short of my expectations. Purely because I would expect more changes, more systems being adapted or changed or, something. This is not enough. You've seen all the big changes that we're getting in Wrath, like, emblems, the same type of emblems dropping from 10, 25 man, only going down to 2 types of emblems, increased health in Nax, all these things, addition of the adventurous satchel things that you get from quest rewards. There's so many things that have actually been added to Wrath that this sort of vague, I'll say it again, this vague description of what Cata could be is just not enough. So it falls short of my expectations at the moment. So how does this concept impact my interest in general? Yeah, it makes me more interested because I want to play Cata. How does this concept compare to previous classic expansions? It's about the same or somewhat worse, in my opinion, because again, we just haven't got a lot of information about what it's going to look like. Which of the following most closely aligns with what you would want as the next expansion of Classic after Wrath of the Lich King? The next expansion would focus on Cataclysm without any changes. The next expansion would focus on new Season of Mastery in Classic, Burning Crusade Classic, or Wrath of the Lich King Classic. The next expansion would focus on Cataclysm with some changes to the original release. I don't know, have any expectations, or none of the above. What I would want is Cataclysm. That's it. I would worry that they re-release the whole sort of trilogy, if you like, and they start at Vanilla, then TBC, then Wrath again, because I don't want to have to wait, nearly 3 years to get to the expansion that I actually want to play. If they was all standalone or whatever, or they just re-released Wrath, I'd be quite happy with that, like I said at the start. But ultimately, I want Cata. And then we're back at what country do you live in? So we are done. I know it was quite long, but it was a long old survey, and I wanted us to get through it. So let me know whether I know so many of you are going to say you don't want Cata, but just try and be a bit open-minded and think, you've been farming Ruby Sanctum, you've been farming ICC, your character's full bis. Are you about to wave goodbye to that? Or would you want to at least adventure into Cataclysm and see what it's got to offer? There's no harm. You're not going to have to pay any money, are you? There's no harm in going into Cata, getting to 85, doing some of the dungeons, heroics, gearing, and go, I don't like this. To just draw the line at Wrath, I don't know, I think you might be missing potentially something that could end up being a really good expansion, better than some of us remember, even me. And I know I enjoyed Cata all the way up to Dragon Soul, basically. All the way up to farming Dragon Soul for almost a year. That got very, very boring. The game felt stale. That's the only way to describe it. If that doesn't happen in Classic, I think we could actually have a really good time. Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Check out Rested XP to level up really fast in Wrath. And roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes. Everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name. And you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.